I've been kindly asked by Father Chris to make another contribution to Pause for Reflection. I don't think it was anything to do with the quality of my previous contribution, but nevertheless, I'll see what I can do. I hope in the good weather you've had an opportunity to sit outside and just look up at the stars. If you had, you would have noticed that you could see Saturn and Jupiter, and you might have mistaken for a second that these were stars, but they weren't. They were planets very close to the Earth. And if you spent any time there, one of the things, the impression you get, is how vast the universe is. Now, if you're really interested, go onto YouTube and have a look at some of the videos people put on there with regard to the size of the Earth to the rest of the universe. And one of the things you realise is, very quickly, is the Earth is no more than a mote of dust in a sea of nothingness. One of the satellites, as it was leaving our solar system, turned around and took a photograph of the Earth, and all it was a speck in a vastness of nothing. Makes you feel a little bit insignificant, very humble. And there's a few times when you feel the same way. You might be standing on top of a mountain or in front of an ocean, and you feel so small. But the reality is, we share this planet with 7 to 9 billion other people. And because of that, we have to ensure that the resources we have are sufficient for everybody. One thing the pandemic has shown is that the resources are not shared equally, that the inequality within our societies is substantial and significant. And as a result of that, we have a strange phenomenon where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and it's causing huge amounts of suffering to people. I'm a great supporter of the Pope. In fact, I'm going to have to say, during this pandemic, he has been one of the loudest voices on the international stage. Recently, he's made some comments. This is some of the things he said. It would be sad if this vaccine were to become the property of this nation or another, rather than universal and for all. He warned that the greed of richer people around the world has stifled discussion about poverty and the needs of the poor. He said the pandemic has laid bare the difficult situation of the poor and the great inequality that reigns in the world. In 2018, he went also a little bit further and said that we as Christians cannot stand with arms folded in indifference or with arms outstretched in helplessness. He called followers of faith to live our faith in contact with those in need. The pandemic has laid bare problems within society. When he refers to the richer people and those richer societies, he's referring to the Western world, most of which is Christian. That creates a big problem. The big problem, of course, is the message has virtually had little or no significance in 2,000 years. It's a problem that has to be addressed. We have to go back to the Gospels, go back to the messages, and to re-look at them and to rethink them through. Because for one reason or other, that message is not getting through. That for some reason or other, the Christian world has managed to come up with a strategy and a solution which almost means that the poor and the inequality in society is almost ignored. For some reason or other, we're not waving banners about inequality. We're not walking through the streets of London in protest, despite billions upon billions being spent on all sorts of things in the country at the minute. And yet you can see that right now, as more and more redundancies are going to be made over the next few weeks and months, the people hardest hit will be the poor. As big corporations try to protect their positions, try to protect their profits, the people who will be hardest hit will be the poor and the most marginalised. There'll be cuts in services, there will be cuts across all parts of the government. And people at the lowest end will be hardest hit. It's back to what I've said previously. Do you know, where do we stand? What do you hope to get out of this pandemic? I mean, I was hoping for a rethink. I was hoping for the world and society to take a new look at what we have before us and to take a fresh, brave start. Sadly, I'm starting to think we're just going to go back to the way it was, and relatively quickly as well. For my part, I refuse to. And I encourage other Christians to do the same. We need to stand together to show that we will not allow the back to business model to continue. The environment is suffering. There are wars raging all over the world. Indifference and inequality within this particular country. There's so much to be done. And I think now, with the pandemic still amongst us, we need to take a fresh breath of air and a fresh new start in this society. Thank you.